Welcome to another soul-stirring episode of the Inner Office, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Work-Life Dilemmas. Now, this isn't just a podcast, it's a pause, a sacred space where we attempt to bridge the wisdom of the ancients with the silent questions modern leaders ask themselves every day. Who am I beyond the title? How do I stay rooted when everything around me changes? Now, we have Sunil Kumar Maddikunta, a seasoned facilitator today. Warm welcome and good morning, Sunil.
Thanks a lot, Ravi. Excited to be here with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sunil. So, in a world driven by hustle and hyper productivity, Sunil, the inner office invites you to slow down and listen not to more noise, but to deeper knowing. And today, I've got the joy of welcoming someone who exemplifies just that, the power of empathy, clarity of experience, and the stillness that comes from decades of meaningful leadership. So, Sunil, a bit of your introduction: seasoned facilitator, coach, mentor with over 25 years of experience across industries, from hospitality to BFSI to big tech. He's held senior learning leadership roles at HSBC, Credit Suisse, AIG, Meta, and Splunk. I think 14 years of work in Singapore and also in India. But titles don't define Sunil, don't they? What does is his quiet conviction in the power of authentic leadership and his personal initiative and his deep grounded work as someone who believes in impact through empathy. Is a perfect guest for today's episode. So, Sunil, I think we can start off. Maybe any welcome words before I start with the themes?
Absolutely. I mean, extremely kind of you, Ravi, for such a lovely introduction. And I really hope I'll be able to share some insights, if not all, in terms of the conversation that we're going to have. And as I said earlier, absolutely excited to be with you today.
Thank you so much, Sunil. So we have, I think, 5 themes for today, and a couple of questions for each theme. So we're going to start off with, choosing chilling or chilling out or challenging work. That's the first one. Second one is on the side gigs vis-a-vis day job tug-of-war. Interesting questions there, Sunil. And staying or switching in flat organizations is the third one. Hybrid work bias, heard or hidden. And the final theme is on coordination overload in distributed teams. So the first one, I will start off was on choosing chilling out or challenging work. The questions are around, should I stay in a low stress job I don't love or push into riskier roles to grow? That's number one. And what if growth demands giving up the comfort I've worked so hard to earn, according to you?
Yeah, I mean, low stress jobs. I think it's a myth, actually. I think every job has got some stress or something about it. It doesn't really matter whether you're in a junior level or a very senior level. There is always stress associated with it. But if I actually go with the question on the face of it, low stress job versus push into riskier roles to grow, it all depends on what your purpose is, right? I mean, what do you want to achieve? What is your end goal? What is your purpose in corporate life, personal life? In fact, I have seen in my career who have declined promotions because they did not want to take on additional responsibilities. When I was working for HSBC and in one of my trips to Sheffield in the UK, when we were migrating mortgage service center work to India, there were loads of people, ICs, in the same role for decades. And of course, they were like absolutely having a lot of experience in the work they were doing because they were doing that day in, day out for decades. And I kind of casually asked over a cup of coffee or tea, generally, hey, you've been doing this role for a long time. I said, yeah, I was offered promotions, but I declined. I said, wow, why did you do that? They said, I don't want to take on additional responsibilities. And more importantly, if I come into a team leader position, I won't get paid for overtime. But being in this current role, if I do overtime, I get paid. Perfectly fine. That's their purpose. That's their role, right? I mean, that's what they enjoy doing. That's what they want to do. But then there is no growth in being in your comfort zone and not taking any risks. So if one really wants to grow, doesn't really matter whether it is in getting a promotion or getting into a different role or generally in life, growth is obviously needed. And growth doesn't come in comfort zones. So you need to come out of your comfort zone, take those risks, and push for that.
Mm.
So it all depends. Going back to our theme today in terms of inner office, which is our own inner self. Self-reflection is key, and with that self-reflection comes, because I strongly believe self-reflection is the most important thing for anybody. And with that comes what exactly you would like to do in life.
Absolutely, sir. I mean, MSc help desk, mortgage help desk is something which I was involved in. This was back in 2006 September. So when you mentioned about the transition of mortgage service center in Sheffield, I was there for 3 months along with three other team leaders from CTX. We were actually Satish actually sent us over there to migrate the process. So it reminded me very, very fondly. So moving on, Sunil, to the next theme, we are looking at the side gigs vis-a-vis day job tug of war. Questions are around, should I start freelancing on the side, even if it means more stress and less certainty? And this is something which Moonlighting has branded it as such. What is your view? Because if you look at it, the security which people had earlier isn't there anymore. Job is there, the pay is there. When we lose a job, no one actually knows. So is it actually smart to do something on the side because of the lack of security? What is your view on that?
I think a lot of people do that, and my personal view is you should do that. The reason is, as you rightly mentioned, there is no security. Having said that, what is extremely important is to be totally transparent with the company you're working with. um, because there will be clauses where there could be conflict of interest, or it could be against the dual employment law that companies may have. If you're doing something that has got nothing to do with the company that you're employed with, or with the role you're doing, and doesn't have any conflict of interest, or it doesn't impact the dual employment law, uh, absolutely fine. But the key again is being transparent with the company you're working for, be it with the human resources or with your manager, is extremely important. Having said that, what is also extremely important is, like my wife keeps telling me, everything has to be in limit. So where do you balance that? Even goodness has to be in limit. Even badness has to be in limit. Even whatever you eat, drink, whatever has to be in limit. Where do you balance that? I think that's extremely important, because nowadays we hear a lot about mental health, mental well-being, um, and in terms of chasing for money and growth, people tend to ignore some of the signs that creep in as you keep working a lot. So you got to have a balance. Yes, I have a day job to do. There is something I'm doing on the side, but I don't want to take on too much on my plate, because then it shouldn't impact the work I'm doing, because that's my primary role, primary job. So it shouldn't impact the productivity at my current job. So again is a very important thing to think about in terms of having that balance. Again, it comes with self-reflection, and I'm going to talk a lot about self-reflection as we go along, because that's something I practice every week. On a Friday, I sit down for at least half an hour, 20 minutes at least. I carve out that time and just think about what did I do in this past week, and how did it shape me, or how it's going to help me in the future. So that's again very important. Got to sit down and think, okay, where do I draw a line? Where do I do what do I do, and how do I kind of think about not just me and the work and earning money, but how do I spend time with my family? How do I spend time with myself, which is extremely important, and etc. etc.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Sunil. Adding to that, I think you did cover this, but the question was around, will my company see it as disloyal if I pursue something outside work? I think you covered it, but if you want to say anything else on that.
Yeah, I mean, they will definitely consider you disloyal if you're not being transparent.
Absolutely.
But if as long as you're completely transparent and inform them well in advance that this is something that I would like to pursue, and get a written confirmation that they are okay with it,
Mm,
then I think there are no questions about it. As long
absolutely.
as you commit saying that, yes, I'll be as productive as I've always been,
Mm,
even despite doing other gigs on the side.
sure. Thank you, Sunil. So next theme is on lack of titles or movement, which can actually cause silent dissatisfaction, especially in flat organizations with little formal progression. So You're looking at staying or switching in flat organizations. The questions are around if my company has no promotion ladder, does staying here stunt my growth? That's number one. And how do I measure success if there are no visible milestones, according to you?
Yeah, let me cover the first bit.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily about flat organizations, it can be anywhere, right? I've worked in extremely hierarchical organizations like HSBC and AIG, and also very flat organizations like Facebook. Um, and what there's one thing common that comes across in both is just because you're in a hierarchical organization doesn't mean that you'll get promoted
Yeah.
automatically every couple of years, or tenure matters. And okay, I've been in this role for 3 years now, I'm need to move to another role. No, it doesn't happen that way, especially in the modern times. The past probably 10 15 years or 20 years, it doesn't happen that way. So this situation is not really about flat orgs, but even hierarchy companies. My There's something that I have actually developed at AIG is what we call as a career pathing focused on experiences than roles. Because roles are narrow, right? You have this specific role or a title, and you want to get onto that role or a title. Perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. But then you're narrowing yourself only to that specific role. But when you look at experiences as career, right, accumulating experiences, you're potentially preparing yourself for multiple roles. So tomorrow, if suppose there is a specific role which 10 people are vying for, your chance of getting is 10%. But there are multiple roles, then your chances of getting that role, if you have accumulated experiences around that,
Mm.
is going to be larger.
Yeah.
And especially in the modern corporate industry, people generally tend to prefer somebody who has got those different skills.
Mm.
What is it, if you come with multiple skills
Mm.
beyond the role is required, and I have skills only for that specific role, you
Mm.
have a better chance of getting that, because Ravi has got some additional skills that we can then utilize by bringing him into the role.
Yeah.
This is something, career pathing focused on experiences than roles, which is extremely important. And if you have done that, then even whether it is a flat organization or a hierarchical organization, you are better placed to go up the ladder. Now, having said that, again, career development is not just about growing up, right?
Yeah.
It's about taking different ways of, even stepping down a bit in case you want to expand your breadth of experience and skills. It's about lateral movements. As you know, Ravi, you've been in this industry for a long time, so it's not just about moving up. So I would start to think again, self-reflect. Are you looking at only promotion? Or are you only looking going up the ladder? Or are you going to shift to another ladder laterally? Or are you looking at taking one step down of the same ladder so that you can go to a larger ladder, which will give you much more experiences? So uh, sit down and self-reflect and see where you want to take your career from there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sunil. So moving to the hybrid work bias, heard or hidden. The reflection is around remote workers often miss hallway visibility, leading to fear of being forgotten in leadership conversations. So the question, Sunil, around am I being overlooked because I'm remote while others are on site, and how can I build executive presence when I'm just a box on the screen?
Yeah, I think during COVID, this was so much come up, right? And I think the irony is, I'm digressing a bit, but during COVID, we had a lot of remote working from home. Until that time, everybody was coming into office. And once the COVID thing got over, and when companies are asking people to come back to work, they are not.
Yep.
Not all prefer to come, right? And then they say that they may not, I'm being overlooked, or I'm not being visible. Fair enough. I mean, there are different reasons why you prefer to work from home, maybe 2 or 3 days a week. But yes, proximity bias is real, but it's manageable. It's absolutely manageable, because people naturally gravitate towards those they are more often seen, they're seen more often. It's not necessarily personal, but you need to be more intentional about visibility when working remotely. You got to be much more intentional in terms of how you want to be visible while you're working from home or being remote. But then, how do we do that? That is about shifting the focus from, from being, are you visible for impact or are you just visible for presence? And that's
Absolutely.
extremely important because,
Mm,
you
mm,
know, being seen is to being known for outcomes is different from just being seen on a Zoom screen. And apart from that, how are you contributing in those meetings? So maybe yes, of course, you have some whatever reasons, genuine reasons for you to be remote and work from home. But are you speaking up in meetings? Now, apart from actually having those meetings, are you initiating any of those one-on-ones with important stakeholders? I think that actually has a lot of makes a lot of difference. Now, I might be attending n number of Zoom calls with which has an average number of people around 7 or 8. But after that, am I doing follow-up one-on-ones with people? Because one-on-ones create far more impact than in a group
yeah.
or a team meetings, right? So again, these are questions I'm asking because it's all about self-reflection. So are you speaking up in meetings? Are you initiating one-on-ones with stakeholders? Are your leaders aware of your contributions? Then, if not, then how are you making those? How are you creating that awareness?
Mm,
Now, in addition to that, it's also about building allies and advocates, right? Um, because sometimes remote employees need champions to amplify their work, whatever contributions they've made, and beyond the manager. So you could have there's something again, there's have a set of advocates. So there could be
mm,
a coach, a mentor, a sponsor, a peer level, somebody who could you could bounce off your ideas.
yeah.
And these are the people who amplify. Are you having that community with you?
Mm,
If not, then why don't you create a community to have that so that there will be allies who could actually speak about you, about your work, and
yeah.
then despite being remote, you're still being seen for impact rather than just for presence. um, and so one of the things that also can happen is in terms of how do you now those about Zoom calls and building allies and having one-on-ones. In addition to that, what are you doing about internal messaging apps like Slack or emails? Um, how are you showing your presence in those internal platforms? So
Mm,
those are things that help a lot. Again, it has to be intentional,
yeah.
as I mentioned earlier, because proximity bias is real.
Mm,
And when something has to be intentional, it has to be through self-reflection.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of thoughts actually triggered as we're talking about Sunil. One of which was networking. I think you're talking about it. Maybe I may not be using the term networking. Um, Both remote workers or people actually going to office are very very busy. If you look at their schedules, right, they've got n number of meetings a day, and they think that that's a priority. Attend the meeting, do whatever is required, and then done with it, go back home. Weekend you have your own work as such. But I think this equation was okay earlier, but this equation is not okay in the given kind of an environment building up from a corporate standpoint. Because your job is at stake and there's no security as such. So, what are you doing beyond your role? What is the proactiveness? And as you rightly said, it's not just with your manager, you also need to connect with the leaders as well. I want to give an example. This happened back when I was in GLT. I was a senior soft skill trainer there, and we were doing um, some educational activity outside, so nothing to do with GLT as such. So I was involved in the Samiti activity where I went and then gave a talk because I was a trainer. They called me up. And I didn't know, but they actually called the head of GLT Hyderabad as a guest. Now they wanted me to introduce him because they also knew I was from there. So I did that job. And I remember once I came back to office and I was actually on my table with my boss and four of my colleagues. The head of GLT came over me and said, gave an update in terms of what was happening outside. Nothing to do with office, something to do with Seva outside. My boss was surprised. How do you know when this guy is 4 or 5 levels up and me and he's just tapping your shoulder and talking? So not saying that I got promotions over that, but these kind of linkages and association and networking beyond roles definitely helps develop your confidence, because my manager was looking at me in a new light because I was just maybe a manager there, but the senior vice president is coming and talking to me about something. So I think these kind of things also are necessary to evolve as such, as a person and as a professional. I think networking is the word,
Oh,
according
yeah.
to me.
No, absolutely. That's a great example, Ravi. And this reminds me of a feature that we had at Facebook, where there was a platform, internal platform, where you can just register yourself. People just voluntarily register themselves, and then once a week, it kind of just randomly matches two people and sends the notifications. And it could be somebody. I was based in Singapore, and it could be somebody like me with somebody in maybe London,
Mm.
right? And it just randomly matches us. And of course, if you happen to be in the same location, and if you happen to be working from the office in the office together, then maybe have a meal together and just share insights.
Yeah.
If it happens to be same location but working remotely or
Mm.
different location, then it will prompt you to set up a Zoom call
Mm.
one-on-one, where you just it could start just with, hey, hi, I'm Sunil, and start off with that, with absolutely no knowledge about the other person.
Yeah.
And then it 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 kind of opened up a lot of avenues. Oh wow, I never knew this. Oh
Mm.
wow, I didn't know you did with that. Hey,
Yeah.
we have an issue here.
Yeah.
Maybe that solution you had in Singapore might help us in London.
Yeah.
Can I put you to whoever, and you can have a collaboration? Or I could get more insight about Facebook business,
Mm.
from a London perspective, which I can use as examples here when I do my trainings and
Yeah.
facilitate sessions. So
Absolutely.
that was very powerful, actually.
Mm. Absolutely. No, it reminds me of a couple of promotions which I did not get back in CTS, especially when we're talking about role changes and promotions, right? So I was not much of into networking. I was basically doing my job, basically customer service executive, taking calls for UK business customers. But there was this, churning within me, a desire that I should have the tag of assistant manager operations. And I prepared. I've been being a trainer. I actually became a trainer later once I lost these two roles. Someone else actually got the roles. But I remember there were there was a questionnaire of around 30, 40 questions, and I sat down, wrote my metrics, wrote data points, what I did, how did I influence all my performance things, extracurricular activities beyond my role. Solidly I prepared. I thought I did an excellent job when it came to the interview. Did not get the first one, got some feedback. Again, after 6 months, I applied, went through the same thing, excellent prep, did not get the role. That is where, when I reflect back and you speak about self reflection, and I was doing it while you were actually talking, that why didn't I get the role is because I did not influence beyond my team, nor did I go to other managers and speak with them, nor did I speak to the hiring manager to actually understand. So all of these small networking things are very, very important, where you can be individually brilliant, but in case you want to be a team leader, you need to manage 10, 15 people. You need to actually work with a lot of managers, also with, the head of CTS and such. So that point I was missing. And consequently, Christina Vijaykumar selected me as a trainer. And I remember very fondly, there was just very small meeting with you, Sunil. You were actually her boss, I guess. And we were in a training room in good old Banjara Hills office. And I think you were
Babukan
in
Estates.
Babukan Estates. And you came in, and I never knew your background. I never knew that you had studied in Paratin. Maybe I would have connected better. Did network with you, would have given some brownie points with Christina. But, there's a small interaction where she introduced you to us, and then you just spoke for a few minutes and you left. So that's when I really saw the first Sunil Kumar, uh, way back in CTS training, maybe around 2004, 2006 ke beech. So yeah, nice reflections, Sunil.
Oh
And
yeah, no, absolutely. That also kind of reminds me of a process we had at Credit Suisse when I was working for Credit Suisse, especially at a specific level and above when you're applying for a promotion. So let's say from a VP to a director level or director to managing director level. When you apply, you are expected to get two endorsements or two sponsorships from one level above. So let's say, for example, I'm applying for a director promotion, then I need to have at least two MD references within the company, but from an entirely different organization function.
mm, mm,
Big and that compels you to actually kind of build your network, where again, I may not be working with you as an MD for whatever because
yeah,
our roles are very different.
right.
We are not cross-functional partners, but
Mm,
I have connected with you. You know about my work. I know about your work,
yeah,
and you're now endorsing me. Yeah,
mm,
Sunil is good. He's ready for a director role. I think those kind of processes, if you kind of put in place,
yeah,
actually compel people to build your and grow your network.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think if I look at our conversation, right, if someone wants to have a promotion, what is the process? If that's the question, first understand who's recruiting, right? Speak to that particular person to understand what is the role. Speak to that guy's boss also. And also you need to, identify people who are influential and very rightly said, endorsements maybe from others in terms of how this guy, because what happens is not just an interview. And which I realized later, you can do a great interview, which I didn't get the role because someone out there was not endorsing me, and we need to identify who are the influential people who can actually say a word on behalf of us to the recruiting manager. So these are things very, very important, I guess. Thankfully, I think this discussion is leading to something very solid, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be very useful for people. Sunil. So I think moving on. I'm not saying the last one. I picked up some more, but now the one of the themes that we're going to talk about is coordination overload in distributed teams. Questions around why does great intra-team collab make cross-team work harder, and how do I influence beyond my immediate team when silos have become stronger post-COVID? I think the second one we did touch upon it, but the first one in terms of how does great intra-team collab make cross-team work harder? So then, according to you.
Sure. I think this is so important because we work in an ecosystem, right? We obviously we have our own team, we have our own hierarchy, we report into a specific team, but whatever work we do, irrespective of whichever function you are in, whether you're in admin, HR, sales, marketing, you have touch points across in some shape or form, right? And for me, that's why it is extremely important that it's not just about self-reflection, it's also about team reflection. It's about how a manager can actually sit with the team and figure out what are we doing, how are we influencing other teams, and how are we getting influenced by other teams. This reminds me, before I get into some of the nuances, reminds me of a team development assignment I did at Facebook. So we were actually so I was working very closely with the HR business partner and the leader and the leaders team. And I was into a kind of a diagnose phase where we had a lot of conversations, figuring out what are some of the things that are happening, why is the team not performing to the extent to that they should be performing, etc., etc. And after collating all the information, and I presented back, I figured out that there's not nothing much that we could do. I mean, the team was doing well. I mean, they had a absolutely great intra-team collaboration. As you kind of put it in your question, they're doing extremely well. They bonded in strong bonds, and they were kind of optimizing everything in terms of the processes within the team. They were looking at there was a clear identity in terms of what their team stands for, what is the team's purpose, etc.
Hmm.
But still, the output was not really great. It was average. They were not hitting the milestones, they were not hitting the targets and all of that stuff.
mm,
I think, okay, what's wrong? Everything looks fine, then what is something, what is causing? Then I thought, let me talk to at least three cross-functional partners this team works with. And I went to the leader and said, hey, can you tell me three important teams that you actually collaborate with as part of your job? And then I spoke to them,
mm,
two representatives from each of those, and the insights they gave me about this team,
mm.
there's loads of blind spots that emerged, which they were not aware of. So for example, what I do is sometimes I kind of do a rating scale of 1 to 10. How effective is this team?
Mm,
And each of the team members actually does it, and the average came out to be like 7.5 or 8. Wow, great team effectiveness
yeah,
out of 10. And when I actually asked the cross-functional partners, the average was around 5. Oh, that's a big disparity, right?
yeah,
And then I dug deeper and I had those one-on-one conversations and what exactly are the issues. Then I presented back these issues in an anonymous way to this team
mm,
and said, hey, this is the mirror. This is what your cross-functional teams think about you.
right,
And that's when they were like aha moments. Oh, wow, we didn't know that. So sometimes strong bonds within the team can create blinders.
absolutely,
And sometimes optimization is great, but over optimization within the team can bring in a lot of rigidity into the process. This is what our process, we want to do this, but they're not being flexible for the other cross-functional teams to work together with them. And yes, they had a clear identity, but that may not be a shared purpose. Because
right,
at the end of the day, they are just one cog in the big picture, right?
yeah,
So how is that clear identity being a shared purpose along with the cross-functional partners? And also
absolutely,
there could be some mismatched incentives. So it
mm,
could be about they may not have articulated shared goals.
mm,
As a team, they are working towards one specific overall org purpose or goal, but they don't have those shared purposes.
yeah,
Then again, there is obviously that fragmentation, and from basically looking at identity to shared survival. So how do we they reframe that collaboration? And all of
absolutely,
those things did, and then they did great after 3 to 4 months. Um, one of the things that we did was using the. I'm a strong believer of Marcus Buckingham's strengths philosophy, and we did the strengths assessment, and there was synergies where hey, this
mm,
guy in that specific cross-functional team is really good at so and so skill. I'm
mm.
going to go to that person where they were not going earlier. And there was this give and take, mutual give and take, and alignment, and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Very nice, Sunil. Thank you. And this is it's not part of the questionnaire, but I just want your thoughts around it, Sunil, if you're okay. Uh, uh, Typically, leaving a role can be an act of courage and not failure. But ego, image, and fear of regret keep people stuck. So basically, I'm talking about leaving isn't quitting. And the question basically for you is, if I walk away now, will people think I couldn't handle the role? And how do I exit gracefully without burning bridges or myself? Some of the questions which are pretty common on, let's say, Quora or Reddit or LinkedIn, people are actually asking this. I thought maybe I should trigger your thoughts on this.
Yeah. I think one thing that's extremely important is nobody is indispensable. Uh, that everybody knows, right? And that's oft used term in the corporate world. So that's something that we need to be really clear about. That nobody is indispensable. So tomorrow, if I walk away, people work will still happen. But what is extremely important is what kind of legacy would I like to leave back? Um, and if as long as I'm glued on to that, automatically, then you will not try to burn any bridges. The other thing is, which I've actually experienced myself, um, it's about you never know who could be of big help to you in the future.
Yeah.
And I have experienced myself. I got laid off twice, Ravi.
Mm,
And there were times where I would see a role on LinkedIn and I see that this person, there's a mutual connection, right? On LinkedIn it comes up.
Yeah.
There's this mutual connection you can reach out to,
Yeah.
want to refer.
Mm.
And I click on message button for that person, and I see the history of messages that I have exchanged with that person, maybe like 5, 6 years back.
Yeah.
So this person had asked me something, and I replied back in negative, or I did not reply back properly, or
Mm.
ignored.
Yeah.
And then I see that I actually need the help of this person to refer me.
Mm.
And there is this huge amount of guilt. How do I ask? Because this person had a need and I didn't respond properly.
Yeah.
Now, how do I go back to this person and ask for help?
Mm.
So that's why I think that's extremely important to figure out that whether somebody at a very junior level or at a very senior level, it doesn't matter. You never ever know who is going to be of help to you as we go ahead. And that's the ecosystem we are in. That's what networking is all about.
Correct.
And that's why, even if you had the most toxic environment you worked in and you're walking away, don't ever burn your bridges, because the bridges are with that individual, not the organization.
Absolutely.
So, and those individuals are individuals. They don't reflect that company.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this also is triggering a lot of thoughts in. A lot of people off late are reaching out on LinkedIn, asking for references. And one of the to-dos for me every day, and I make a note, is not to ignore anyone. It can be juniors, it can be seniors, it can be anyone. Someone is actually asking, is reaching out for help. And I ensure, either I connect to, corporate leaders or do my bit. I can't give a job, but at least I can actually do that. I think that as a practice, if I think every one of us adopts, when we are in those situations, as you very rightly shared, and thanks for sharing that experience, we will definitely need help sometime in the future, if not now.
Yeah.
Which
You
just
never know.
means that you need to start practicing now, than wait for that particular moment where you do not have a job and you want to try to reach out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's about, it's not just about gaining always, it's always about giving too.
Absolutely.
And but one thing I would like to caution about referrals through LinkedIn, right? When you look at a role, and you know somebody who has been in that company and you'd like for that person to refer you, it's extremely important to see when was the last time you worked with that person. So the reason I'll tell you this, let us say that I worked with a person just 2 years back. That person kind of knows me pretty well,
Yeah.
because it's very recent. But let's say that I worked this person back in 10 years ago.
Mm.
10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Now, when I reach out to that individual, so let's say it's you, I reach out to Ravi, whom I worked with 10 years ago at HSBC. The image or the perception Ravi will have about Sunil is what it was 10 years ago.
Correct.
10 years is a huge time. I have developed a lot of skills.
Yeah.
And you might think, yeah, okay, I will refer, but
Mm.
I don't know whether Sunil is good for that role or not. Of
Absolutely.
course, but I will definitely anyway go ahead and refer.
Mm.
Because in this 10 years, I've never been in touch with you.
Yeah.
That happens. I mean, come on, let's
Yeah.
be realistic.
True.
People
Absolutely.
don't keep in touch with each and every
Correct.
connection on LinkedIn on a regular basis.
True.
You reach out when you need some help.
Correct.
And that's a given, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
So if I have to, come to you and Ravi and say, hey, Ravi, hope you remember me. We worked in HSBC 10 years ago. Can you please refer to this? And then provide you with a summary of my experience. So then you get an idea. Oh, okay. In the last 10 years, Sunil went through so much and he learned so much. I think then you have a better understanding of me as Sunil rather than 10 years ago.
No, absolutely. It reminded me of what happened back in 2012. So I was laid off. This blueprint and the VCG played the big game. Then I was the first one in GLT to be moved out. And I remember having this breakfast with my boss. He got a call from his boss in Pune, and he went up. I didn't know anything about it. But from 6 months onwards, they were preparing all of us. There were calls where they're saying that this is going to come and stuff like that. Who would actually imagine that you're going to be moved out?
Yeah.
Absolutely had my breakfast, had my coffee, went up. And suddenly my boss face pop is very red because he likes me a lot and either liked me a lot and the kind of work I did. So he shook my hand and said, this is what is going to happen. Go and have a chat. And, that's what happened. So I moved out. Uh, Within 4 weeks, I had an offer from Wells Fargo. And a lot of people were surprised how exactly it came around. And in Supu, we spoke about Supu, right? He worked with me then. Uh, and Sheetal also was part of HSBC earlier in the central team. She moved maybe around 5 months back to Wells Fargo, and they had a chat, and they said there's some learning role in Wells Fargo. He got the information. So he pings me saying that, see, there's a role over there. Will you be interested? I said, yes. Profile was forwarded. Next day, interview done. 2 weeks down the lane, Shubha, you interviewed me. Yeah, 3 weeks down the lane, I got an offer. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is how are the existing relationships that you have within your team, right? Subbu didn't work with me; he was not into learning, part of HR as such. But these are the relationships which actually help. Someone talking on behalf of you, they know that you will be moved out, so they know that kind of suffering kind of area speaks to someone else and tells me this is the opportunity, and then the matching actually happens. So it happened to me once,
No,
but just
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, sponsors, right? It's about sponsorship. Somebody sponsored you, somebody advocated for you, somebody spoke about you. That's because you had that network and those relationships. If you had burnt them, I don't think we would be having this conversation today. We would have been somewhere else.
absolutely, absolutely. I think lovely conversations. I really enjoyed. So apart from the official kind of list as such, we went on a detour, and I could very clearly make out that okay, you had come up with some prepared answers, but I think 50% of them were unprepared, where thoughts were actually triggering, and you shared a lot of insights and things which actually happened in real time. So that's something which is going to have a great impact on our listeners. So in conclusion, we did look at choosing chilling out or challenging work as a theme. We looked at the side gigs vis-a-vis day job tug-of-war. We looked at themes on staying or switching in flat organizations, hybrid work, bias heard or hidden, coordination overload in distributed teams, and also we touched on leaving is in quitting. So I think lovely conversation, Sunil. I though very much enjoyed, and as you were answering, a lot of thoughts were actually triggering. And I shared a lot of things which happened with me. So thanks a lot for your time on this inner office. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to love this episode. I'm going to release a teaser today. And I think sometime end of, I think August, most likely this episode will be telecast on the social media. So thanks a lot. Any concluding comments before we run?
No, I think absolute pleasure and a privilege to have this conversation with you, Ravi. I enjoyed it definitely as a lot, and I've learned a lot from you in terms of your experience. We should definitely catch up more. I think there are only two things that I would like to leave with. One is, as I kept harping about self-reflection, for me, it has been extremely powerful. And if somebody is not doing it, I would completely recommend them to do just spend 15 minutes, not a lot, on a Friday or whatever day you're comfortable with, and just think about how did the past 1 week, 2 weeks go. The second thing that I strongly believe in is the strengths philosophy of Marcus Buckingham. I mean, um, that's the look at what your strengths are, and articulate your purpose based on that, because then and the way Marcus Buckingham defines strengths is something that you're good at doing, and also gives you energy. That's extremely important. So that's something you'd like to do. And a final shameless plug. I have designed the three E's leadership model, and which is anchored on empathy. If anybody would like to have a look at it.
What's the kind of work you're doing, Sunil? People will be interested. You had a great 25-year career, and now you're actually doing a lot of other initiatives. So if you can let us know.
Sure, sure. I mean, so from my experience of having worked with a lot of leaders across financial services and tech, um, and especially during COVID, really accentuated. One thing that really stood out was for leaders is extremely important, the element of empathy. And nothing happens in this world if you don't have empathy, whether be it nurturing your team, whether leading your team, or taking your organization forward is extremely important. And so based on my whole experience, I've actually designed this uh, um, 3 E's of leadership model. The three stand for empathy, entrepreneurship, and execution. Um, and it's totally customizable in terms of the leadership teams and the leaders that we can work with.
Sure.
And it has got the whole gamut of self-assessments of where they stand under. So each of the E's has got different set of skill sets that are required to have
Mhm.
that. And we have a full gamut of assessments and workshops that we can do. Uh, Great model to look at how teams can work together. So that's
Excellent.
one part of the thing that I'm working on. The other part is as recently as on Tuesday, I attended AI emerging startups founders event at Gachipoli at Triple IT.
Right.
And I was invited actually there. Though I don't have any tech expertise in that field, I
Mhm.
was invited there to see whether if I'll be able to support and mentor those founders, startup
Wow.
founders. And those are all from Telangana.
Ah.
And so this is
Mhm.
specifically organized by Hiranandani Group. Yota is the name of the company. I can share details later on.
Sure.
So they invited me, and I spoke to those mentors, the founders, and I offered them pro bono mentoring if they need
Excellent.
uh, in setting up their startups. Great idea. So you have things like landmine detection apps to to uh, text to voice. Now, text to voice you might think is very simple,
Yeah.
but this specific app that this guy is developing is it'll so let's say that you have a script in Telugu. Just take
Mm.
Telugu as a language.
Mm.
You provide a script in Telugu. It will give you voiceover in multiple dialects of Telugu itself.
Oh,
And
wow.
you go like 100 kilometers away, there's a different dialect of Telugu that happens. You go to
Absolutely.
Andhra from Telangana, it's a different dialect of Telugu that happens.
Yeah.
So there are like maybe at least 20 different dialects of Telugu, and you just choose which dialect of Telugu you want, and it'll give you a voiceover.
Wow.
I'm sure a lot of dubbing artists will go jobless. Um,
Yeah.
that was great, and I was like totally blown away with that, and I'm
Mm.
actually working with that person to see how I can help him.
Sure.
Then there was so they look quite great. I'm digressing, but yeah. So
Mm.
I'm also looking at coaching and mentoring
Sure.
across levels and also startup founders.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sunil. Then with your 25 years old experience working in HSBC, Credit Suisse, AIG, Meta, and Splunk, I guess you bring a lot to the table. And thanks a lot for sparing an hour today morning, Sunil. I'm going to pull you back again with some raging topic, especially on leadership and learning and coaching and mentoring that you're actually getting into. And lucky are those guys that you're mentoring because you bring in so much of strengths to the table. So thanks so much for your time, Sunil. It's been a pleasure hosting you today.
No, thanks a ton, Ravi. Thanks to you for inviting me. I had a blast. I hope I'm of some help, and hopefully I'll keep learning as I keep interacting with you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.